Earth is not flat. The easiest way to disprove this argument is to cross off the word not. So their theory that the flat Earth theory is an incorrect theory is in reality easily disprovable. Think about it. The Earth is not flat. The subconscious mind doesn't pick up negatives. So what round earthers are actually telling us is that the Earth is flat. Checkmate.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
During my day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day. So, first of all, thanks for coming, and very nice time.
Thanks. Christmas present. Actually, Ryan Cole is the one that first got these, and my wife has been jealous ever since, so this is what I got for
Where does
Christmas.
one get a COVID tie?
I don't know. She looked it up on Amazon or someplace and found it.
You gotta love how industrious some of these folks are. They just, they find a niche. Like, I know what I want to sell: COVID ties. And there you go.
I gotta have a tux for an event that's coming up in Texas in a couple of months, and so my wife is writing to the guy that does the ties and to see if he can make a bow tie that's got the virus on it.
Are you? Are you tired of this?
Tired.
Dealing with this? Do you feel a duty to talk about this? Like, we should just say because historically, we should just state what's happening here. So today is the 30th of December, and yesterday you were kicked off Twitter, correct?
True.
We scheduled this in advance. It's just coincidentally that you were kicked off Twitter. What were you kicked off? First of all, before we even do this, please tell everybody what your history is and what your degrees are and what you do.
Okay, so I'm going to do the short version.
Okay.
So this can last for an hour. If we go into the whole history of mRNA vaccines and all that kind of stuff. My history. I was originally a carpenter and a farmhand in the Central Coast of California, and decided that I wanted to go back to school, and did 2 years of computer science, and then decided that I didn't want to spend the rest of my life looking at a computer monitor in a basement. Bad decision. And decided that I wanted to try to become an MD, which was a hard thing to try to do in the late 70s. So that was a real stretch objective. Went to UC Davis after 2 years of undergrad at Santa Barbara City College, and wanted to work on this new tech space called molecular biology, and in particular on cancer. My mother was deathly afraid of breast cancer. And so I looked around and found a laboratory at UC Davis with a guy named Bob Cardiff and another guy named Murray Gardner that were working with retroviruses and their links to breast cancer. And it just happened that while I was in there, this is circa 83, 84, this whole thing cut loose in San Francisco with immunodeficiency syndrome in men. And the lab ended up right at the forefront of that. Davis is just down the street, basically, from San Francisco. And at the Davis Primate Center, they had discovered that there were monkeys that had immunodeficiency. And so I was there in the lab as an undergraduate, as a total bench rat, when Preston Marks and Murray Gardner and others made the first discovery of a retrovirus basis for immunodeficiency in primates. And then Murray went to the Pasteur, brought back the virus literally in his pocket, went there with Bob Gallo, met with a guy named Luc Montagnier that you may know, and that kind of kicked off the whole vaccine effort for AIDS. So that's kind of what I cut my teeth on, and so I came out of that. It was really bold to think that I could get into medical school, and I kind of overshot the mark. I got an MD PhD scholarship at Northwestern University in Chicago, and so I went from having grown up in Santa Barbara with my wife, we were high school sweethearts, to Chicago, and that was kind of an abrupt transition. So we decided I would do my graduate work at San Diego, and I'd been accepted into a program at UC San Diego that had two of the top gene therapy specialists. I really wanted to do gene therapy with retroviruses. That was what I thought was going to be my life. And so we moved down to San Diego, and I started working in the laboratory of Inderverma, which is in the molecular biology and virology labs at the Salk Institute. And this is a place where graduate students normally aren't allowed to go. There was 7 Nobel laureates at the time, plus Jonas, a really intense competitive environment. Carved out a little niche that I was going to work on for my graduate work, which was asking questions about how retrovirus RNA is packaged. And from that, I had to develop a series of technologies to manufacture RNA and structure it and eventually put it into cells. And that, through a cascade of events, being at the right place at the right time, asking the right questions, surrounded by geniuses, led to this series of discoveries that now forms the basis of the RNA technology platform that gives rise to these vaccines. And 10 issued patents they were all filed in '89. So that's kind of my origin story, that it relates to this virus and vaccine and this. But since then, went on, finished my MD, did 2 fellowships at UC Davis, taught pathology for years, set up a gene therapy lab, had many other discoveries, came out to the East Coast, created the technology platform that is now the basis of the company called Inovio. We actually originally founded Inovio in the United States. This is pulsed electrical fields. They have one of the DNA vaccines for COVID. Then the planes hit the towers, the investors pulled back, and I went to work for a company called Dynport Vaccine Company that had the prime systems contract, as government speak, for all of the biodefense products for the Department of Defense for advanced development, which is to say clinical trials through licensure. And that's my kind of transition from being an academic to focusing on actually making things that work in people. And the big epiphany there was that the world is full of these academic thought leaders that publish in big journals and stuff, but that doesn't really lead to products. And I really wanted to make products that would help people. And so since then, for the last, I guess it's about 20 years, I've been focused on actually doing stuff, regulatory affairs, clinical development, getting the necessary training, etc. Completed a fellowship at Harvard University Medical School in as a global clinical scholar to round out my CV. And I've run, over 100 clinical trials, mostly in the vaccine space, but also in drug repurposing. I've been involved in every major outbreak since AIDS. This is kind of what I do. I've won literally billions of dollars in federal grants and contracts. I'm often brought in by NIH to serve as a study section chair for awarding, $80 to $120 million contracts in vaccines and biodefense. I've spent countless hours at the CDC, at the ACIP meetings. I have multiple friends at the CDC. I work closely with Defense Threat Reduction Agency, which is and it's one of my favorite clients, partners, teaming partners. And I work with the Chem Biodefense Group. There's other branches, including this is not the branch that funded the Wuhan labs. That's another branch of DITRA. I've got many friends in the intelligence community. So I'm kind of a pretty deep insider in terms of the government. I know Tony Fauci personally. I've dealt with him my whole career. And then we had this particular outbreak. And I was tip of the spear on bringing the Ebola vaccine forward that we now call the Merck Ebola vaccine. I'm the one that got Merck involved.
Now, when the pandemic broke out, previous to that, I mean, you're kind of thought of as a heretic now in some strange way. And,
Pariah.
Yeah, pariah is probably a better word. And the fact that you've been banned from Twitter it's
I don't know how much more clearly it could be. He's got CIA ties. He's closely knit. And how else does a poor carpenter end up being an MD? Freemasons, guys. He's got connections. He's got connections.
Copernicus was a Freemason, and so is everybody at NASA. And Freemasons want to keep you completely in the dark about what the true shape of the world is. Why would they want to fool you into thinking the Earth is round? I don't know, and that's why it's so scary. I don't know, and that's why it's so scary.